The following discussion is not necessarily the views of all involved. The goal is to start open and honest discussion in the Christian worldview. Like all things, weigh what you hear with what you know and join us in our pursuit for the truth. Enjoy the podcast.
Everything is made up. Anyways, next question.
Objectively not true.
Prayer does work.
Which is why you can pray to saints. Anyways, let's... what is going on? This is not the podcast. I can't remember reading this, like, growing up.
All right, welcome to the Second Rate Saints podcast. I'm one of your hosts here, Caleb. To my left is...
Joshua. And to my left is...
I'm Joel, and to my left...
It's me, Caleb. It's just the three of us. We're missing Colton, and we're missing Stuart.
Big sad.
Very sad, very sad. Miss them both. Wish they
And
were
Josh
here.
is half here.
Yes, Josh is a little under the weather, so if he
Yes.
sounds different, that's why.
If my voice sounds deeper and more nasally, because I'm sick.
Really?
Yeah, I'm sick.
He's brought this up so many times since we got here.
He's going to get sicker and sicker. He's going to change his voice as the episode goes on.
Yeah,
And
man.
He's just like,
Guys, I'm so sick.
Joel, do we do things on the internet?
Yeah, we've got secondratesaints.com where you can check out any kind of blog posts or episode posts that we have up. There's also a chat feature there if you'd like to get a hold of us that way. If you'd like to send us a more long-form message, we have an email at secondраtesaints@gmail.com. If you'd like to follow us on our socials, we have an Instagram and a Twitter that are going to be more active, hopefully, in the next coming weeks. Yeah, and check us out on YouTube, as always. We're trying to get... some decent projects up and running here in the next little bit. So I'm very excited to see where Second Rate Saints goes as far as growth.
How long do you think people are going to still call it Twitter when it's X now? I hate calling it X.
I guess it is
Everybody
X.
has that problem, and I don't understand why.
Really? You don't understand?
No.
He has this whole thing about how Elon names his companies.
I have this whole thing?
Yeah, you explained it to me the other day. Yeah. How it's like consistent with his naming thing. I don't know. To me, X seems like an unnecessary rebrand, but
Yeah. Going back to you, Joel. What have you read?
yeah. So I just finished the first book in the Space Trilogy series by C.S. Lewis, and I loved it. It was actually like some of the best sci-fi I've read in a really long time. I think the last sci-fi I enjoyed this much was Dan Simmons' Hyperion. I don't think I've read anything quite that enjoyable.
You need
since.
to finish that whole series.
Hyperion?
Yeah.
I don't think I need to. I couldn't get into the second book. Anyways.
No, but Catholic space.
Catholic space Nazis.
Okay,
up
we're
here.
not talking about Hyperion. I was just saying that was the last sci-fi I enjoyed as much as this. The way he writes it is so vivid. Again, this is the first book in C.S. Lewis's Space Trilogy, which is his lesser-known fiction. Which I guess he writes a lot of fiction, but at the same time, anyways, it's like this narrative. And the first book, just his imagery is so incredibly vivid. The way he describes space travel, it follows like an older style of sci-fi.
Yeah.
You guys have also read it, right? Both of you?
Yep.
I've read the first book.
Well,
No.
yeah, that's all I've read so far as well. I plan on reading the rest. I mean,
I'm so excited for when you read the third book. Oh, so good.
hopefully some of the stuff just compounds and gets better and better.
Who would you think is the target demographic for that?
If you've ever read like Jules Verne, you might enjoy some of the styling of the way he describes environments. But also if you enjoyed, I suppose if you enjoyed Narnia as a child, then you might enjoy this as an adult.
Okay.
It gets into deeper themes. And if Narnia is supposed to be, if Narnia is supposed to be analogous to Bible stories, then Space Trilogy is supposed to be analogous to theology.
Yes.
right? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it does. You're
Like,
right. It gets more and more explicit the more it goes.
It got pretty intense near the end of the first book, even with the whole like. I don't want to spoil too much for those that are going to get into it, but
But also C.S. Lewis is known for being a very overt author. Is like he doesn't hide like ideas in narrative as well as other authors, but it's intentional.
Like Jesus is Aslan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, and that's one of the most obvious ones in Narnia.
Or the main character in this is called Ransom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and it is ransom theology, like a little bit, like for the first book especially.
Yeah.
It gets pretty deep into that, but just the way he writes, it's hard to read old sci-fi sometimes, because some of their terms aren't quite as updated, or there are things that are in the common vernacular now that aren't explained well in old sci-fi. You know, like obviously they didn't have, say as rigorous of an understanding of black holes or of the depths of space or of the way different atmospheres of different planets would work out.
Yeah.
But he does a pretty good job of it.
A shockingly good job. Considering that they hadn't gone to the moon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It also like, because of that, space kind of feels like a magical forest.
Yeah. He plays into that heavy.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of it. I think the reason it works is because he is writing it through the eyes of somebody seeing it,
Yes.
not writing it from the world seeing the person. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of these.
Josh looks confused.
Some writers create a world and then place a character in the world, whereas C.S. Lewis is creating a character and then through the eyes of that character seeing the world.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
He even
an
makes a comment on it
exploration.
when the book ends, and he goes, "I don't know as much as I should know about where I was."
Yeah.
Right? Like that. Even my stories, I realize, is just a local understanding, and has nothing to do with the depth of his exploration. Right? Like it's just,
Oh, man.
it's really good.
I need to reread The Dark Tower just to bring it up on the podcast because it's so good.
See, I've never even heard of the Dark Tower.
Ransom's in it.
Like the same ransom.
Yeah, and so is C.S. Lewis
What?
as a character.
Okay, we got to clarify that this is not the Dark Tower by Stephen King.
No,
this is a different by C.S. Lewis.
It's so good.
Related at all or no?
He never finished it. So don't pick it up consider expecting to finish the story. Things amp up, it gets halfway, and then it's like, anyway. But holy moly, it's so good. Much of the same stuff, like what you're describing with the characters, exactly the same. C.S. Lewis is so good at that. At least I found in his space trilogy, and in a little bit until we have Faces. It's just such a sad book. Explaining and exploring the world through the character, and thus you create such a bond with the character that you kind of miss in lots of other fantasy and sci-fi and modern literature. It's a different way of creating a bond with a character than, let's say, Dostoevsky does, because there's a little bit of that, but like you definitely create a bond with a character in differently in that way too. But because you share that exploration aspect in C.S. Lewis's books, I think you kind of there's a different type of character bond that you have.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see how he continues. The kind of, because you can't write exploration forever, right? Sometimes things have to happen in the world that's established.
They're very different. All three are very, very different books.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it started off as a challenge amongst the Inklings. Like they all had to write a space travel like sci-fi and in their like respective ways. And so he was tasked with space travel in their like sci-fi challenge. Tolkien had time travel. One of the other guys had another type of travel within space and sci-fi. And so C.S. Lewis wrote Out of the Silent Planet as that. And so then it became this whole thing.
I wonder if that's why they get thicker. Because like at first it's just like this trial thing, and it's like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah.
Oh no, this is really cool.
And Tolkien started writing something, and then it just fell apart, and he started writing The Fall of Numenor.
Is that actually what he wrote for that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Have you ever read Leaf by Niggle?
No,
It's a crazy name.
No.
That's what it's called. I don't know what to tell you. Apparently, the word just means like to kind of wander. It's
Leaf?
No, not leaf.
Okay, I understand.
Anyways,
Yeah.
he writes another short story. Now it seems like very much in the vein of. It feels a little bit like The Great Divorce, but
Okay.
but very Tolkien, but not elves. It's like it has something to do with the ontological argument. Doesn't matter. Anyways, let's move on.
That sounds fascinating, though.
Yeah, I'll read it and bring it to the podcast because it's only like 70 pages.
Josh,
Yes.
we're, as the audience knows, we are continuing on with Samuel.
Yes.
So, what did we do previously on Samuel?
Previously on Samuel.
Previously on Samuel.
Oh, we're all doing it.
Yeah. Well, once you did it, I had to do it.
Yeah,
so.
it's fair.
Yeah, so last time we talked about chapter 24 and chapter 23 and 24. David is pursued by Saul. First, David ends up defending this town of Kyla and using the ephod that the descendant that Ahimelech? Yep, Ahimelech brings after his father is killed by Saul.
Yeah, him and his whole town.
Him and his whole town are killed. He flees
devoted
with
to
the
destruction.
ephod, with potentially the Urim and Thummim inside. And that's what David uses to petition God for what he should do. And so he finds out that Saul's coming to the town he is at, which is Kyla. And David says, hey, is this town going to be killed on my behalf because Saul's going to come after me? God's like, yeah. And so he's like, okay, I'm leaving. I don't want this town to die. So he leaves.
Well, he's like, is he going to come attack the town? Yes. Will they just give me up? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, leaving.
Yeah. Okay, I'm leaving. And so it's Abiathar. Ahimelech was the priest.
Oh.
Yeah. So
Well, Abiathar is the father, is it not?
when Abiathar, the son of Ahimelech. Yeah.
You're right. I'm
Yeah.
wrong.
No. We were both wrong. And then
Together.
yes. And then Saul pursues David into the hill country. And then eventually in the mountains, in the cave system, David is hiding with his men. And Saul takes a break and goes to relieve himself in the cave, goes to take a pee break. And David and his 600 men are just hiding in the caves while this is happening. And David goes up and cuts the hem off of Saul's robe, comes back, and he feels really bad because he might have brought harm to Saul. And his men are like, hey, why didn't you kill him? Like, this was your opportunity.
Yeah.
And David's like, no, but I can't. He's one of the Lord's anointed. He's also my father-in-law. Like, there's some more going on here. So he goes back and he's like, hey, Saul, I've done nothing. Why do you treat me like this? I could have killed you. I didn't. You know you can't kill me. The Lord's against you, but I don't want to kill you because you're the Lord's anointed. And then Saul's like,
Is that David?
Is that you, David?
But he was looking for David this whole time.
Yeah.
So the fact he just wandered into a cave to take a whiz and
Found him by accident.
And then
David?
David does his whole spiel, and then, hey, is that you?
Hey, is that you? And then
imagine
David's
someone
like,
walks in the bathroom on you, like walks into the bathroom. It's like,
Cuts up your clothes.
I will spare you. It's like, whoa, what?
That's totally reframing everything. Funny.
I mean, works.
And so Saul suddenly realizes the situation he's in. Literally, he's caught with his pants down.
Well, he was.
Yeah.
He's not currently.
And so Saul's like, hey, just don't kill all my descendants, right? When you take over, and the throne's yours.
Which is funny because then they both go their opposite ways, and it's not.
And then Saul later on comes and attacks him again. And we are at that divide part where they go both their own ways. And it opens up with the text that we're about to read.
Yeah, that's sad.
Yeah. And it's about to open up with the saddest thing ever. Now Samuel died, and all Israel assembled and mourned for him. And they buried him in his house in Ramah. Then David rose and went down to the wilderness of Paran. And there was a man in Maon whose business was in Carmel. The man was very rich. He had 3,000 sheep and and 1,000 goats. He was shearing his sheep in Carmel. Now the name of the man was Nabal, and the name of his wife Abigail. The woman was discerning and beautiful, but the man was harsh and badly behaved. He was a Calebite. David heard in the wilderness that Nabal was shearing his sheep. So David sent 10 young men, and David said to the young men, go up to Carmel and go to Nabal and greet him in my name, and thus you shall greet him. Peace be to you, and peace be to your house, and peace be in all that you have. I hear that you have shearers. Now your shepherds have been with us, and we did them no harm, and they missed nothing all the time they were in Carmel. Ask your young men, and they will tell you. Therefore, let my young men find favor in your eyes, for we come on a feast day. Please give whatever you have at hand to your servants and to your son, David.
It seems reasonable.
Yep. And there's some more reasonable stuff going on there that's like kind of alluded to, but to our eyes, we don't see.
Can you elaborate?
So at the shearing, as David would know as a shepherd himself, the shearing of the sheep is a festival of sorts where the shepherds are brought in and they're rewarded for the sheep that they didn't lose, that they are overseeing. And David is saying, hey, I was protecting your sheep from the animals because I was with your shepherds. And so as a part of the festival, can you also reward my men for having protected your sheep so that you didn't lose any?
Reasonable.
Which is reasonable.
Yeah, fair
hey, I
enough.
did some free work for you. Can you put some stuff to the side?
Yeah.
We're just, we can't have jobs because we're,
fugitives.
fugitives.
As like, what was it? Like a couple chapters earlier, it's when he runs away, and then it's just like, and then also a couple people that, on the outskirts of society, those that were not friendly to Saul, joined.
Yes.
So it's kind of, he's got his band of,
Merry men.
His thieves.
Outcasts.
Yeah, he's Robin Hood, dude.
Yeah. David is Robin Hood.
Well,
And the sheriff of Nottingham is Saul.
Who's King John? Jesus is Lionheart.
yeah, fair enough.
Yes, exactly. Do you got anything else, Caleb? Carmel is going to be more interesting later on in the Bible.
It's going to be more of a theme towards the end of the chapter,
Yeah.
but it is where they're at. They're wandering around in Judah. It's a Calebite. It seems as though he's staying close to home,
Yes.
right?
He's like within 10 miles of Hebron,
Yeah.
which eventually becomes his capital.
Yeah, which is a massive Calebite city.
Yeah.
Like that's their center.
It is kind of wild that he's like, and he was a mean guy. That seems like a negligible detail, but is it just discrediting him right off the bat to set up?
I think it's setting it up, but it's
Future
also
stuff?
comparing the husband and the wife. That the husband is this discerning and beautiful and wise woman, and
Nope, you got that backwards.
the wife, jeez, Abigail, is a discerning and beautiful, wise wife. And Nabal, which his name means the fool, is described as harsh and brutal.
Man, his mom must have been prophetic.
Yeah, just dunking on him at birth.
Yeah, most scholars say that that's not actually his name, but the guy who wrote Samuel was just like, this guy sucks.
You saying the Bible's lying to me?
Nope.
I will not elaborate.
In the same way,
You're going to figure out what hermeneutics means.
yes, in
passively.
the same way that Goliath means exile, or might have been a name given to him by the Philistines around him, the exile from Gath, or like Pharaoh as a title, or there's a guy named Abimelech in that Abraham meets, and he's a king of a city, and Ahimelech means father of kings, or my father is king. It might be referring to a title, but not his name. An earlier rendition of King of Kings.
And Melchizedek, maybe?
Cool.
Yeah, and Melchizedek, King of Righteousness.
Also Malachi.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just being messenger.
Yeah. My messenger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, this dude's rich.
Yeah.
Like, does it mention in this passage? Yeah.
Yeah.
3,000 sheep and 3,000 goats. He's like not quite comparable to Job, but like really close.
Yeah.
Let's do the comparison.
I don't know offhand how many.
Actually,
Do you guys know how many he had, or
I'm going to go
Job did?
right to the Bible.
it is.
Now, to be fair, Job still would be richer regardless because of the amount of time between the two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you
So
counting for
Job-
inflation?
By way of comparison,
sheep
Job
inflation.
has 7,000 sheep.
3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, and 500 female donkeys. And then gets double that after.
Yeah. So like he's still small compared to Job, but this guy's rich.
Yeah. But he is not righteous.
No.
Unlike Job, has done nothing with that blessing.
So
Surly and mean.
David's like, hey, we did this thing for you. You're doing your celebration. You're a rich dude. We helped you out. How about you help us out?
Yeah.
Reasonable request.
yeah, it's a reasonable request because he's got to look for alternate ways to feed his men.
Because he's got 600 dudes.
Yeah, and they need to eat because they're going around and saving people's towns.
Right.
So they're while running from Saul, so they're moving. And so that, yeah, it's a completely reasonable movement. Next section. When David's young men came, they said all of this to Nabal in the name of David, and then they waited. And Nabal answered David's servant, "Who's David? Who is the son of Jesse? There are many servants these days who are breaking away from their masters. Shall I take my bread and my water and my meat that I have killed for my shearers and give it to men who come from I do not know where?" So David's young men turned away and came back and told him all this. And David said to his men, "Every man strap on his sword," and every man of them strapped on his sword. David also strapped on his sword, and about 400 men went up after David, while 200 men remained with the baggage. I heard you laughing, Caleb.
This is very specific tactics,
Yeah.
right? Like it's like telling how he delegates all his men.
But that's some harsh words from.
To me, it's reminiscent of, and I know it's not super comparable, but to me, it's reminiscent of Pharaoh
Yes.
with the like, who's
the Lord?
yeah, who are you
that
talking
I should
about?
answer to him?
Why should I care?
Yeah, but
I don't know where he comes from. But here's the thing: they're both in the land of Judah.
Yeah.
Like this is their region.
Yeah.
They would know each other.
Yep.
This is not. Also, he was Saul's champion.
Well, and it's also that it's specifically saying there are many servants these days who are breaking away from their masters.
Oh, he's a prophet because we'll see later.
Well, no. He knows who David is. He's being facetious.
Yeah, he's just like
Who's David that I should think of, that I should care about him?
Yeah, you got a band of whatever.
Yeah.
Naysayers out there just doing whatever.
Yeah.
I'm Mr. Rich Man on the.
Yeah.
On my
And it's
mountain.
probably because he's loyal to Saul, because Saul rescued this area from the Amalekites. The Amalekites had owned this area for a while, and Saul and his conquest, when he was a good king, defeated the Amalekites and took the land back. And so these people are very grateful to Saul for what he did.
Also, something that the text doesn't get into. The last time a group of people gave food to David,
Yeah.
they were wiped off of the face of the earth.
Yes.
Yeah.
And being the priesthood of God did not stop that from happening.
Yeah. So, and the text doesn't really say that that's it doesn't even bring it up. But you got to kind of think that there's that's going around in the background.
Well, there might be another connection there later on to that like idea. But we'll get into that.
Well, I mean, it might be David's connection right now. Because it's the opposite.
No.
And he's like, I'm going to wipe him out. Strap on your swords, boys.
Yes, but there's also a note that David makes when Abigail comes and saves him.
Yes, it is interesting to see when David is granted food, Saul wipes it out. when David is denied food, he goes to wipe them out.
Yes.
And yet we'll see
Yeah.
what happens.
Yeah. Okay. But one of the young men told Abigail, Nabal's wife, "Behold, David sent messengers out of the wilderness to greet our master, and he railed at them. Yet the men were very good to us. We suffered no harm, and we did not miss anything when we were in the fields, as long as we went with them. They were a wall to us both by night and by day, all the while we were with them keeping the sheep. Now therefore know this and consider what you should do. For harm is determined against our master and against all his house, and he is such a worthless man that one cannot speak to him." Then Abigail made haste. Am I supposed to continue reading?
I don't think so.
You're 14 to 20? I think I am.
Okay, go on.
Then Abigail made haste, took 2 loaves of bread and 2 skins of wine, 5 sheep already prepared, and 5 seahs of parched grain, and 100 clusters of raisins, and 200 cakes of figs, and laid them on donkeys. And she said to the young men, "Go on before me. Behold, I come after you." But she did not tell her husband Nabal. And as she rode on the donkey and came down under cover of the mountain, behold, David and his men came toward her, and she met him.
So Nabal was just talking about worthless servants betraying their masters.
Mm-hmm.
Well, his servants are like, hey, but he's a worthless master and I'm going to betray him.
And then also his wife.
Yeah, even his own wife, who's the wise wife, the discerning.
Yes.
So we talked earlier about like Jonathan and even Michael, David's first wife, leaving the family of Saul and kind of defecting over to David. Do you think this is an example of now the common man is also starting to defect over to David? Because we're seeing the gradual broadening of the scope of David's supporters.
Monkey sees pattern.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's what it is. It just seems like
even God helps with that at the very end of the chapter.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's going to be a tough one. That might actually lead into something bigger, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Abigail's nice. Not only smart and nice.
David's coming to destroy. Well, we'll get into to what level of destruction he's going to get into, but he's pissed.
Yeah. So hey, like, you owe us something.
And we're desperate.
Yeah. We're desperate, but you
also insulted me.
You insulted me because, like, I did this for you. And even if you didn't want to help me because I'm opposing Saul,
that would have been like, who knows what the response would have been. If his response was, hey, thank you, but I will not let my family and my servants be destroyed by Saul for helping you.
Yeah.
We don't know what David's reaction to that would be.
Yeah.
But that's not the reaction he got.
No. Yeah. So, yeah. And Abigail makes this choice underneath her husband's watch, and it's very interesting. And she goes on to say this. Now, David says this. Now, David had said, "Surely in vain have I guarded all that this fellow was in the wilderness, so that nothing was missed of all that belonged to him, and he has returned to me evil for good. God, do so to the enemies of David, and more also, if by morning I leave as much as one male of all who belong to him."
That sounds like knob to me.
Yeah.
So to me, there's a couple things that are compounding, at least in my brain. This is a parallel to Nob, right? The priests, where Saul goes, wipes them out, and he wipes out everyone, right?
Yeah.
David's intent is to do the same.
Yes.
Right. Additionally, there might even be a callback for when the worthless men didn't give Saul tribute, and then the people of Israel are like, let's kill them all.
Yeah.
And then he's like, hey, no. But David, both of those things, Saul's in one area it was a good thing, and the other area was a very bad thing. And both of those, like, this is David's moment of trial in that type of scenario. Yeah. And he's not doing the right thing right now. He's currently marching towards them with malicious executionary intent.
And yeah. And he admits why he has a particular failing here later on.
Yeah.
He admits the specific reason why he fails here, which is interesting because Saul doesn't in those moments, whereas David will like be like, here, this is the specific reason what I did wrong. And Abigail, yeah, Abigail's great. Shall I read the next section? Caleb? What do you got?
Yes.
You look like you're ready for something.
Sorry. I have a note here, and then I don't know if I was going to bring it up. Which was I can't find the verse. Which was the verse where he will not let one male?
22.
22. Male.
I will not leave so much as one male of all that belong to him.
Okay. You know what? Never mind. There's some weird note going on in the Word Biblical Commentary on this.
Yeah. It's not worth bringing up.
Meaning of David and Abigail. Indeed, Nabal. David had vowed under oath not to allow any of Nabal's men to survive until the morning. I don't know. There's something about pissing against the wall, and then he has
just read it out because it's funny.
What?
Read it out. Read it out.
Okay. This is who writes this again? Word Biblical Commentary, Ralph W. Klein. The meeting of David and Abigail is delayed by the narrator, probably in this case a Deuteronomic historian, records the thought that had run through David's mind. David lamented that his protection of Nabal's property had been absolutely in vain. Indeed, Nabal had returned evil for good in the manner of Saul. David had vowed under oath not to allow even one of Nabal's men to survive until the morning. And then he quotes another commentator, ascribes all the vulgar references to, quote, those who piss against the wall, end quote, to various Deuteronomistic hands. And then he quotes a bunch of things in 1st and 2nd Kings, which I want. Now I'm kicking myself for not cross-referencing that. Thing, yeah. This report of David's thought underscores the just character of David's wrath and how great a danger is posed to Nabal's household. That's not what I got in a different commentary, but anyway.
Well,
I was so excited to talk about that.
Well, let's continue.
Well, that was that.
Sorry, guys, if that was... Anyway.
When Abigail saw David, she hurried and got down from the donkey and fell before David on her face and bowed to the ground. She fell at his feet and said, "On me alone, my lord, be the guilt. Please let your servant speak in your ears and hear the words of your servants. Let not my lord regard this worthless fellow, Nabal, for as his name is, so is he. Nabal is his name, and folly is with him. But I, your servant, did not see the young men of my lord whom you sent. Now then, my lord, as the Lord lives, and as your soul lives, because of the Lord has restrained you from blood guilt and from saving with your own hand, now then let your enemies and those who seek and do evil to my lord be as Nabal. And now let this present that your servant has brought to my lord be given to the young men who follow my lord. Please forgive the trespasses of your servant, for the Lord will certainly make my lord a sure house, because my lord is fighting the battles of the Lord, and evil shall not be found in you so long as you live. If men rise up to pursue you and to seek your life, the life of my lord shall be bound in the bundle of the living in the care of the Lord your God. And the lives of your enemies shall be slung out as from the hollow of a sling. And when the Lord has done to my lord according to all the good that he has spoken concerning you and has appointed you prince over Israel, my lord shall have no cause of grief or pangs of consciousness for having shed blood without cause, or for my lord working salvation himself. Then the Lord has dealt well with my lord, then when remembering your servant. She's smart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
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 What was that? What was that pass around?
Hey, my husband is very foolish.
He's kind of dumb. But hey, I'm your servant. Don't freak out. Don't go and destroy everything.
Yeah. Well, no. Like, she specifically says, don't work out salvation by your own hand.
Yeah. Well, it's
And it goes specifically, I think, to the line of vengeance is mine, says God.
well, and it's God saving David from actually committing the sins of Saul.
Yes.
That's why I brought up the connections previously, is because I think that's what's going on in there.
Yeah.
I think that's the
Well,
main
David
thrust of
says
it.
that. And David says that later on, but David also later on says, I did not acquire upon the Lord the same way he did before.
Right.
I'm deciding to do this as king or whatever by my own mind, by my own wisdom, not by acquiring upon the Lord if I should do this, if I should act in judgment here. Because as king, he's supposed to protect God's people and blah, 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 as God commanded Saul, defend the border, protect the Israelites, bring just judgment with the sword and stuff like that. And this is not a good case of that.
Right.
And he needs to acquire upon the Lord when doing that idea. But Abigail's like, she brings the food for everybody. She's like, hey, when you're going to go do what you're going to do, spare me. There was another servant that did well by talking to me.
Yeah.
And she's also kind of prophetic in that, like, she's like, hey, you're going to be prince. You're going to, you're going to rule. The Lord has made your house sure. Don't do this.
The Lord's going to destroy your enemies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's like a favor to allegiance is happening. You know?
And she's calling herself his servant. I think twice, 3 times.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of my lords.
Yeah.
But not the Lord, but yeah.
In the Hebrew it would be more clear. But
yeah.
Because Yahweh would be written. But
still Adonai, but
yes.
He's going to fight about Hebrew.
No. I'm just saying in the writing you would see Yahweh, but then you would see Adonai separately, but then still pronounce them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it wouldn't sound any different. Anyways, that's the whole point. There. Have you been finding reading in Hebrew more?
I have not been reading in Hebrew more, but I've been like seeing the things that I'm learning, like looking back into it.
Yeah.
Like being like, oh, like that's probably that word that they're using. And that's been nice because my vocab list is huge. Like,
and to clarify for our listeners, Josh is just taking higher levels of Hebrew now.
You have a Hebrew exam tomorrow, don't you?
Yeah.
So pray for Josh, even though it's past tense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Prayed for
prayer
Josh.
does work unlinear to time.
Which is why you can pray to saints. Anyways, let's... That's not true. I don't believe that. Let's go back to the text. I'm sorry for throwing us off.
There's also a very Rahab thing happening here.
That's what I was going to say, is that there's a tie-in with like...
Yeah.
Feminine saving of family kind of a thing.
Yes. And the like God's... A great act of God is known by many people and it's coming closer and everybody's aligned against God. But this one person goes secretly to God's people and is like, hey, don't kill my family. I actually like God.
And also she mentions don't kill the servant either because he was like doing a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. This is just very interesting. Yeah. I wonder if there's more to that. Yeah.
Yeah, to the tie between Rahab and...
Well, and also this woman does join Jesus' family line as well.
That's true.
Man, just...
I want to make a connection to Nicodemus going to talk to Jesus.
Secretly?
But I don't think there is a connection.
Is Nicodemus the New Testament Rahab?
No. What?
He might be.
I'm just saying I want to make the connection. I just can't see it.
He goes secretly to Jesus because he's like, hey, I like you, unlike the other Pharisees. And then he gets given the like, hey, if you believe in me, like Rahab did, right? You won't die.
I mean...
In the most
God's judgment
abstract.
is coming. God's judgment is
Let's
coming.
make it less abstract. he is also given the offer of, if you side with God, your life will be spared.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of the limit, right? Like, or is there more in that story?
That is like the most biblical, like,
And
that
then
is
later
the
on,
biblical theology.
Yeah.
well,
So,
yeah,
like,
and then later on, he goes and defends Jesus in front of all the Pharisees.
Yep.
And then they ridicule him.
I think we're grasping at straws there.
Nicodemus is a very interesting character because you don't know where he turns out.
Yeah, you never get an end story to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be he's going to be one of those characters where, like, when you get into heaven and you see him and you're just like, yeah.
I wonder what like
He made it.
Or you don't see him.
Or you don't see him and you're just like, oh.
I wonder what the church tradition is on that, because, like, you know, those type of things don't normally pop up until 200, and it's just made up anyway. But like, what?
Like he just said they don't pop up until 200 years later, and then they just made it up.
Well, I mean, some stuff is
argument
like
for
that.
tradition in the whole. Just
I'm not saying everything. Man, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We've gotten derailed.
Everything is made up. Anyways, next question.
Objectively not true.
well, unless God made everything, and
is
then everything is made up.
It is subjectively true, though.
Yeah. Do only subjective truths exist? Now you
Yes.
now you have to answer it objectively. Yes, objectively.
What is going on? This is not the podcast.
So I'm going to read the next section. Is everybody ready for that?
Yes, I think so.
Everybody ready?
Yeah.
I'm not ready for whatever Caleb was doing.
So this is David's response, everyone. What did I just...
This is why the Calebites were evil.
Is it me?
Well,
You're the one that brought
You
up praying to
also
the saints.
skipped a section, but that's okay. And David said to Abigail, "Blessed be the Lord, the God of Israel, who sent you this day to meet me. Blessed be your discretion, and blessed be you. You have kept me this day from blood guilt and from working salvation by my own hand. For as surely as the Lord, the God of Israel, lives, who has restrained me from hurting you, unless you had hurried and come to meet me, truly by morning there had not been left to Nabal so much as one male." Then David received from her hand what she had brought him, and he said to her, "Go up in peace to your house. See, I have obeyed your voice, and I have granted your petition."
I'm not going to kill everybody. Also, thank you for stopping me in my wild murder frenzy.
I was going to kill everyone. Good job.
And that would have been bad.
Well, here's the thing.
And acknowledging that it was God that sent her.
Mm-hmm.
The fact he knows he has this tendency is why he shouldn't be surprised later on when God does not allow him to build a temple. Is because it's mentioned here that it would be a very positive thing if David didn't just kill people who disagreed with him.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
Like that's what I see when I read
And
this.
I
thing.
love God's response. He's just like, "Hey, man, you've killed too many people to be the one that builds my temple."
Yeah. Like, it would be dramatic irony if you built anywhere that anyone lived. You know what I'm saying? It's like if you built the place of life in Israel, it would still have the tinge of blood on it. You know what
Yes.
I'm saying? Like there's
Well, I think that's why it's important that Solomon makes it. And then, like, when you get Herod's temple later on, it's still, it's like, yeah, but it was made by Herod.
yeah.
Like, that's it's like, I don't like that. Considering we know the character he was, even though he was a king of Israel in the weirdest way possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would need to expand on that, and it's very far removed from the United Kingdom.
I'm sorry. Oh.
The United Monarchy.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. When Israel was one kingdom and not two.
I didn't get that.
And this leads us to our next point. And Abigail came to Nabal, and behold, he was holding a feast in his house, like the feast of a king. And Nabal's heart was merry within him, for he was very drunk. So she told him nothing, and at all until the morning light. In the morning, when the wine had gone out of Nabal, his wife told him these things, and his heart died within him, and he became as a stone. And about 10 days later, the Lord struck Nabal, and he died.
Okay.
What?
Yeah. So the commentators that I read we're just like, anyway, so she was wise for not telling him when he was drunk. Why? I don't see. Is it just because he's a fool who would like fly off the wall and just like
get his men ready and attack David?
Yeah.
Or
like
kill her.
Yeah. Like, is that the move?
I think it is, because then when he's sober, it would hit him what he'd done.
It seems like she was like, hey, also, help David, and then he just dies.
Yeah. Well, and it's specifically because
it's the Lord
yeah.
destroying the enemies of David.
Yeah.
Which is something that she also prophesied, which is a little interesting.
To me, it just sounds like a heart attack.
Well, I mean,
he partied too hard.
Yeah, he partied too hard, and his wife told him these things, and his heart died within him. And he became as a stone.
But I think that's similar to like when David said his heart died within him, when he felt the massive weight of guilt from when he was about to kill Saul. And there's a very similar like threat to God's anointed. But David didn't do it intentionally because he said, no, this is the Lord's anointed. Whereas Nabal was like, no, I'm intentionally insulting you.
Okay.
No, this is a personal attack.
Yeah. So is it just that he realized there was going to be judgment for what he had done?
Yeah. And because she had mentioned to David the line, Nabal had intended to repay your good with evil.
Yeah.
And she said, may the Lord do that to his enemies.
So now she would be immediately thinking of Saul, though, not Nabal. Maybe.
Yes.
Probably, right?
Yes. But God's got his plans.
And David with the rebound.
Whoa.
Like, that's weirdly how it goes. And I know the context of it. Okay, let's get into the next section before I start talking.
But first, so like God strikes David. This is where we get the like idea of like, and the Lord like getting like struck by lightning as like an act of God. Like that's where like these kind of passages are what highlight that like cultural idea of like, I got smited by God, or, you know, like in TV shows and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Just
What
get
was it?
smoked.
Herod's intestines got eaten.
Yeah. By a bunch of worms.
Yes. Whoa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But like, this is like the like, boom, dead kind of.
Well, depressed for 10 days and then dead.
Yeah. Unless the remark
fullness
of
of time.
him being, unless the remark of him being like stone is like his heart was hardened.
Here's the thing, unless Joel's more modern approach there for a bit actually is it.
What?
His heart goes into cardiac whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then he's just sick in bed.
And nobody helps him.
And nobody helps him and he dies.
Yeah. Fair enough.
If you get cardiac arrest in 1000 BC,
like
you're not
stone,
kidding.
it could be just he got a stroke because he wasn't able to move, which they would call like stone. That makes sense to me. But
and a meteor divided the Red Sea.
Hang on. Stop.
I'm joking.
That's a very fun equivalency. Awesome. Also, it's the Reed Sea, and yes, it was a meteor.
No, there's a difference between God working straight up a miracle.
Yeah.
I was joking, Caleb.
Also,
No.
people being sick, like bedridden, and then dying 10 days later, I don't put in the category of miracles.
Worms eating their intestines immediately.
I didn't say it was a miracle. I just said the Lord struck him.
Yeah. And that's the part that doesn't make sense to me because it's like he was on his way out.
Well, and to your point, there is passages where it says the Lord struck them with disease. And so there's a natural cause along those lines. Or the Lord struck them with tumors earlier on.
So I don't want to give it a naturalistic explanation if that's not what it is, but it seems like that's what it is. Right? It seems like, and his heart died within him would be an explanation of something medical going wrong with him.
Yeah.
That they can't diagnose because, yeah.
It doesn't feel poetic.
I'm with Joel on this one.
But
I don't disagree.
Maybe.
Maybe Josh doesn't disagree.
See, no, I'm trying to figure.
I just think that the natural cause was caused by God. That
Okay.
he wasn't like fat, and that's why he had a heart attack.
Oh, for sure. Like Providence all the way.
yeah, like the way God killed him is in a natural way. The same way that if you were struck by lightning, that is a natural cause of death.
Here's the thing. How do
Okay.
you think?
Do we say getting struck by lightning is dying of natural causes? Because to me, that feels like a misuse of language.
Here's the thing. Do you think Saul would read it that way?
No,
Saul would be like, hey, this guy was my good, faithful servant who didn't help out David, and then he killed him somehow.
So no, he didn't die of like not natural cause. You're right, not natural cause, and like he died of old age, but like he died of a way like in nature humans can die. Like,
Okay, we're definitely establishing a baseline here.
I disagree.
like
My position is nobody dies because I have no experiential proof for it.
so you're saying somebody doesn't just drop dead because God annihilates their soul?
Oh man, and I don't think annihilating the soul is the same thing as dying either. My goodness.
No, you're sorry, it just sounded cool in my mind.
It sounds awesome. I don't think it's the Christian perception of death.
No,
And
I
he
never
calls
said
back
that.
their soul.
No, but I mean like
Thanos snap.
no, what I mean is like there's a difference between like God just like the life leaves them and they just fall over dead.
Yeah.
Like, and if you were to do an autopsy, there's no seeable reason why they would have died. Versus what you're saying is God caused his heart to fail and he died.
Yeah.
Or aneurysm or whatever.
Yeah, I don't need an exact diagnosis. What I'm saying is his heart dies and then the Lord struck him after he was in bed for 10 days
Mm-hmm.
or as a stone for 10 days,
Yeah.
whatever that means.
Yeah. And I think the heart dying
Stoned
is
for 10 days.
yeah. And I think the previous mention to his heart dies is in parallel to David when his heart dies when he attacks Saul. This is of the guilt.
Okay, so it's just your heart dies when you attack the Lord's anointed. Okay, we'll settle with that because I've got to think about this some more. So,
But the Lord striking him can still be of a natural cause.
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. So
Okay,
that way I
I
don't
think we agree on
disagree. I just had to do the Egyptian thing, and a meteor is what cuts the
God calls back the soul as you're walking on the sidewalk. It's time.
you've been
Goes into
recalled.
ragdoll physics.
Just no clips into the world.
goes into the back rooms.
Okay, so we're gonna need like a legend to interpret this episode because at this point the references are so all over the place.
Shall we finish this last part?
Probably.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Unless you had more to say, Joel.
No, I think we're good.
Okay. When David heard that Nabal was dead, he said, "Blessed be the Lord who has avenged." What?
It's just, when he heard he was dead, he said, "Blessed be the Lord." Whoa,
You give and take away.
that's not it.
That's the first line of the song.
I know.
When David heard that Nabal was dead, he said, "Blessed be the Lord who has avenged and the insult I received at the hand of Nabal and has kept back his servant from wrongdoing. The Lord has returned the evil of Nabal on his own head." Then David sent and spoke to Abigail to take her as his wife. When the servants of David came to Abigail at Carmel, they said to her, "David has said to us to you to take you to him as his wife." And she rose and bowed with her face to the ground and said, "Behold, your handmaid is a servant to wash the feet of the servant of my Lord." And Abigail hurried and rose and mounted a donkey, and her 5 young women attended her. She followed the messengers of David and became his wife. David also took Ahinoam of Jezreel, and both of them became his wives. Saul had given Michal his daughter, David's wife, to Palti, the son of Laish, who was of Gallim.
Yeah, kind of a mean move on Saul's part.
Yes.
I think he's a little bitter, eh?
I mean, if Yeah.
So is David doing a bit of like kinsman redeemer here? Like, hey, sorry, you have nobody to take care of you now.
I don't think so. Here's why. I don't think so. The other person he marries is also a person from Judah. And then he rules from Hebron.
Yes.
I think he's marrying into the elite at Hebron, near Hebron, solidifying his power in Judah.
Yes.
I think it's a political and practical marriage.
Yes.
This is how he can sustain his band of merry men.
Mm-hmm.
She does need to be. She should be remarried.
Yes.
If she doesn't have sons, which she probably would, likely. Depends. Who knows?
I was about to say something super chauvinistic. Anyways, I'm going to not say that.
Good.
Sometimes you hate your own brain.
We're going to have to clip that out. Anyways.
Yeah.
I think that there is like, again, so I'm going to actually oppose that view.
Okay.
I think that it is because David is now obligated to take care of Abigail. I think it's returning the favor of protection.
Yeah. I think it might be politically advantageous.
She probably has closer relatives to be kinsman and redeemer to protect her in those ways. Right?
Sure, maybe.
Why would it just be David, the person who's running from the king?
Yeah, that's okay. I see that point.
Yes, but if Nabal's family, who are all the people there are supporters of Saul, find out that she had supported David and then gets married off to another man supporting the enemy of Saul, she's going to be dealt with horribly. She's not going to be taken care of.
Yeah, that's true. She does have
She's now an enemy of the people.
She's committed treason.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So he's obligated. He's got to take her in.
And then it also just doesn't explain Ionom of Jezreel. It's like, also he married another woman, that's because his other wife was given away to one of his friends.
Isn't that also, though, the wife of Saul, one of the wives of Saul, that name? Because I've read commentators make a big deal out of it. It was like, so he stole Saul's wife, and so Saul gave David's wife to somebody else.
Oh yeah,
and it doesn't look. What's his name? The Word Biblical Commentator guy's kind of just like, anyway, people say this. Nah, doesn't make any sense.
No, I haven't seen any kind of connection with that, but who knows?
Either way, it's weird that David does just start
marrying immediately.
Yeah, I think it's because they're both from the tribe of Judah. I think it's to solidify his connections to Judah, his strength in Judah.
So John H. Walton, Victor H. Matthews, and Mark W. Chavalis, the writers of the IBP Bible Background Commentary of the Old Testament section, agree with you, Caleb. They say his marriage to Abigail provided him with ties to the area around Hebron, and his marriage to Ahinoam of Jezreel established connections with households in the vicinity of Megiddo and Beth Shan. This kingship network ensured that David would have friendly voices in the council of elders from all over the country. On the other hand,
and Abigail happens to be pretty and smart.
Yes.
Yeah, fair enough.
She's very discerning, which means she'll probably be he probably thinks it'd be good to have her voice.
She saved me from sinning once.
But I think this is also unintentional on his behalf. Like, partly. Like, he got caught in this situation. Like, he was about to make this decision. God saved him from this interaction, right? And then also it's God's kind of way of providing him with an in of being king in a semi-treasonous sense. But so, and in that way, he's also taking care of a woman that is now in a bad position, because if she goes anywhere, she'll probably be dealt with horribly, if not killed, for being treasonous. And so it's both he's rescuing her, and God has given him a political in, and David sees it as a political in. It's a win-win-win-win-win.
That's fair.
And Nabal's dead.
Win.
Win.
And,
One more
and
supporter for
probably
Saul is
never going to be
eliminated.
seen again. Do we ever hear from any of these like family lines again? Like Nabal or like there's no son of Nabal mentioned, is there?
And not to my knowledge.
Not that I know of.
I didn't think so. And then Doeg was the last one. Or
Yeah. Doeg.
Doeg, yeah.
Doeg, yeah.
The Moabite? Was he a Moabite?
He was, yeah. Yeah, it seems like we're getting a bunch of mini bosses before before we get to Saul, but
Abner, the son of Ner. Anyways.
Abner, the son of Ner?
Would it be
But
Ben? Would it be
Ben-Ner?
Ben-Ner? Would be
Yeah, I
son
was
of
about to say because
Ner?
Ab would be like Av, like father.
Yes.
So father Ner,
No,
son of Ner.
No, what they might be doing is the
Father.
yod might be consumed by the nun.
Nobody
Oh, yeah.
knows what you're talking about.
I know what he's talking
So
about
Hebrew,
vaguely.
for those that don't know Hebrew, sometimes when you in English, sometimes when you make an abbreviate like to like a compound word, the words in the letters in the middle disappear, like making can and not into cannot or can't. Letters disappear.
That's yeah.
It's different. It's a completely different system, but I'm just saying sometimes when you combined words in different languages, certain letters disappear.
Yeah.
And in this word, it might be the case that what would be Aviner
Yeah.
instead of Avner, just the yod disappears. The y part.
What would Avi be then?
Avi would be my father is king. My father is Ner. So my father is Ner,
But it's
the
still-
son of Ner. Because he's saying,
that's
because
awesome.
this man is saying my father is Ner.
Yeah.
That's his name.
That's his name.
That's so weird. Anyways.
I took a
It's a step down from father of kings.
I took a systematics course from a guy called Veli Matti, which
Okay.
I found out later just means brother Matt.
yeah.
That's cool. I like that. Veli Matti.
Or Malachi means my messenger or my angel.
Weird. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So David takes on another wife, and there's no consequence for it. There's no nothing.
There's nothing. This might be one of those gray areas at the time that it's like, no, what I mean is like there's a lot of things that the kings do if we're going to judge them by New Testament. Like,
Yeah, but they're not because kind of the, you
Yeah.
know, Deuteronomistic.
yeah,
Okay, expand on that a little bit.
Like, isn't there a whole, like people will reference, you leave your, from Genesis, right?
Yeah.
You leave your father and mother and you become one flesh.
yeah.
Isn't that built later on with whole concepts of the family cell and like the like in the intensity within marriage in the Deuteronomistic laws?
Yeah.
And like that kind of gets super broken up as soon as you presuppose that, oh, I can have multiple wives then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like
Well, and we discussed in our patriarchs series the reason for the polygamy within the
every time it shows up, it's negative. It has negative consequences.
it's negative, but the reason why they're in the wanderer, the sojourner sections of Israel's history, the reason they're polygamous is because of the cultural sense that if you have an uneven amount of females to males born and the women aren't married to men, they will die. And so they will be married off to men. Oftentimes the man will have multiple wives so that they have someone to take care of,
Yeah,
to be taken care of.
I think it's one of those.
But now
I think
we're
it's
in
one
the
of the
king
evidences
section.
of every culture fails to uphold and fails to even see how their culture has presuppositions that go against God's moral commands.
Oh, I understand. I'm just saying that the reason why they had it was not because of this sense that men should have more than one wife in that specific cultural sense, was because that if they didn't have more than one wife, these women that were outpopulated the men would die because they had no one to take care of them.
But that risk almost entirely disappears with civilization rather than nomadic tribes.
Yes.
Which is
and
the point you're making about it being more necessary in Abraham's time,
yeah.
but a downfall in David's time.
Yes, and it gets consumed into the kings. The last person we see having multiple wives that is like of a normal person is Samuel's dad.
Mm.
And then it becomes the kings have multiple wives.
Yeah.
But the people aren't as much.
Hmm.
And so you start to see like that happen. The multiple wives shifts to the higher, the people at the top. And then it becomes a super negative thing.
Do you think, because
and a political thing,
so much of David's stress in his life comes from his
poor parenting?
Well, his poor parenting, his childhood, his children not getting along and all that kind of stuff. It's just, I don't know, with the so much heartache in the patriarchs come from them having multiple wives.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And do you think that that's a further continuation of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's also a confirmation that, like, it also makes sense that David is having this problem. Like, he had a bad problem with his own family, with Saul, his father-in-law, right? Just as David is, in this sense, challenging his father to the throne, so does his son challenge him to the throne.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, this is just like his whole family dynamic has always been messed up.
Yeah.
So I don't think David knows what a stable family looks like. Like, other than maybe his father Jesse and stuff like that. But he got pulled out of that young.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and then he was in a political life from
immediately.
Yeah. So,
but yeah, that's chapter 25.
It's another nothing happened episode.
I can't remember reading this, like, growing up. Like, it's one of those things where I know I read through Samuel when I was younger.
Yeah.
But until we started doing research for this episode, or until I read it, I guess, in college,
Mm-hmm.
this whole thing kind of like went over my head.
Yeah.
The part that I remember the most is right at the very end in the comment about Saul giving away Michael. Because
I did,
yeah, because when David goes to get Michael, the person that Saul has given her away really does love her.
Yeah.
And weeps following after her, which is like this weird. I don't know what to do with all that, but
yeah, it doesn't go well.
Bible's wild.
It is, and I think there's an interesting amount of silence from God on those points sometimes. And I think that's why I said that there's a bit of a grayness from like where God approaches these. Like, we might be able to look at Deuteronomy and say this is clearly wrong, but there's times where people lie and God does nothing, like with David. And there's times where somebody does something and God does nothing. Like, and there's a bit of like
the priest of Nob.
Yeah. Yeah. They save David. Nothing from God. They get annihilated. God's priesthood gets annihilated by Saul. Nothing. Like, what's going on? And that's an interesting. And then he comments, and then he sends Abigail to help David.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's an odd. But then again, that's just us not understanding the ways of God, because his ways are higher.
And I think the more you work through these stories in this longer format, the more you're going to realize you don't always get narrative morals immediately.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of times a side effect of story is that you're left with this large picture and the ability to focus on smaller points the longer you look at it. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a complexity to the wider picture that you don't necessarily get unless you step back and you just think about it for a while.
Yeah, like, this isn't a morality tale.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not telling you to do anything.
This is a theological narrative of God working salvation through history. Specifically right now, a king.
Yeah.
A treasonous man becoming king. A man accused of treason hasn't committed treason. working for God.
Is doing everything he can not to commit treason.
Yeah.
So far.
Yeah. And there's moral decisions in there that we can take light of, but it's not a morality tale.
Yeah.
Chapter 24 isn't don't take vengeance, though that is one of the things David says.
Vengeance is God's.
Yeah. But that's not the point of it specifically.
Yeah. And that is, I mean, to me, that's my favorite part about biblical narrative is it takes a while to apply because you don't always have a situation in your life where you can just easily apply it. You have to just kind of sit with it.
Yeah. It's like that thing we say about Dostoevsky novels where like you read them and then 10 years later, you're like, whoa, like it hits finally, like Crime and Punishment, all that stuff. The Bible does that, but over centuries instead of a few years.
Yeah. That's actually a good point.
It does it over a lifetime.
Yeah.
It just constantly hits you. Whoa. Yeah.
Well, we gonna put a bow on it or what?
Probably. We haven't spiraled yet, so it doesn't feel like
is
we're
this a
officially
gift?
coming
We
to an
spiraled early.
end. Yeah, we spiraled early, and then we kind of came back on.
If we're putting a bow on it, is it a present?
Well, no, it's in the future because we'll be posting it next couple weeks.
Please end it, please.
Like in Christmas.
Like at Christmas.
Please end
Okay, we spiraled. Let's finish this episode. That's awesome. So if you've listened this far, I'd like to thank you personally. This is me, Joel. Thank you.
Don't get it confused with Josh nasal voice over here.
Josh, also thank them.
Listener, thank you for listening to the Second Rate Saints podcast.
Oh my goodness.
Caleb, you also have to thank the
Thanks.
listener. Thanks who, Caleb?
That's all you're getting. No, thank you for listening to the podcast. Whenever listeners, I almost said customers. Whenever listeners send us emails, it absolutely makes my day. And you can send those emails to
secondratesaints@gmail.com. And if you want to use the chat feature on our website, that's secondratesaints.com. Keep an eye on what we're doing online. Thank you so much for the recent interaction. Again, it has been popping off in the group chat every time we get a message. It's very exciting. But we've really enjoyed creating this content, but also responding to comments and emails. We'll see you next week, I suppose. Let's just end it.